All right, welcome everyone. Welcome back to another Money Essentials workshop. Today we're here with Cindy to talk all about why you're making good money potentially, but still feeling broke. So I will let Cindy introduce herself and talk about today's topic. Cindy, welcome. We are so excited to hear from you.
Thank you, Annie, for having me. I'm just going to share my screen. So today I wanted to talk about how to double your profit in 90 days without selling more. It's the same thing as making money, but feeling like you're broke, feeling like you're making good money, your marketing, sales, you supporting your clients, like everything looks great on the outside. But behind the scenes, you feel like there's never enough money coming in, or it is coming in and you have no idea where it's going. A lot of us are so focused on selling more, but there's other ways you can increase your profit in your business without having to work more and like burning yourself out. So that's what I'm going to cover today. So really quick, I just wanted to ask, like, what is everyone's monthly revenue goals? Is it like A, B, C, or maybe you're just starting up and you're not really sure? I'd love to hear in the chat what your goal is and like what your business is and where you're logging in from.
I'll just share my thoughts as
Okay.
thanks, Ashley. I was gonna say, I'm always curious too, like what folks' financial goals are and why, because C is always better.
Yeah.
So, are we looking for alignment with meeting our personal needs or continuously growing? But I love this question.
Oh, Ashley just answered. She said A. Jill said C. Now, my next question is, how much do you actually want in your bank account? Is it A, B, or C? I see C's. Okay, amazing. So would you rather be business A or business B? Business A has more in sales, but less in the bank account. Business B has less in revenue, they've made more in profit, and they have more in the bank account. So I see B's, yes. So the online space and what we're hearing a lot in the external world is focusing on this amount. Everyone's showing their like Stripe screenshots, Square screenshots, you name it. But if you ask those same people what's their profit and what's in their bank account, it would go quiet because a lot of businesses to get to this point, they're spending just as much and they really have nothing to show for it. Versus businesses doing less in revenue, they have a better handle on their expenses and they end up being more profitable and having more in the bank. And that's really what I want to go over with you guys today. Just really understanding that your profit and what's in the bank account is more important than your revenue number alone. Because it doesn't really mean anything. So let me guess what 2025 has looked like so far. You feel like you're making sales, but you still have no idea where your money's going. You're scared to check your bank account because you know you're spending a lot, but not really realizing where it's going. You feel like you're doing well, you're hitting those revenue monthly goals, but you still feel broke. So I want to help you change that. So I'll teach you ways you can generate more profit without having to work more and to really just give you clarity and focusing on more on the profit and what's in the bank account versus just what you're making in sales. So everything I'm teaching you today, like you don't have to be a numbers person or a math person. So I'm going to teach you ways that you can implement these small little strategies into your business and your life without feeling like you have to be good with the numbers. So you feel like every month you're kind of launching, you're trying to get clients in, and then the next month you panic again and go into that same cycle over and over. You're writing your finances like it's an X, really hoping manifesting and vibes are just going to pay the bills. But reality is like you need to be thinking ahead. we're so tunnel vision on like making enough money for the month, paying our bills, and the next month we're scrambling again. So it's really about forecasting, planning ahead. Even today for myself, I'm planning out my expenses for 2026 already. And then same with what I want my revenue to look like, what my offers are, and those things. And it's really about planning ahead so you don't feel like you can't take time off for a vacation, family emergency, because you feel like you always need to be working in order to generate money for yourself. So why do you feel so stuck? Well, there's so much external pressure with the economy, inflation, there's unpredictability with like people's spending habits now. At the same time, we've never been taught how to manage our finances or deal with finances in a healthy way, depending on like how the conversation was when you're growing up in your home, whether it was friends, family, whatever it may be for you. Subconsciously, those kind of beliefs you've been carrying with yourself in both like your personal life as you grow up and into your business because it's all connected. There's also like internal pressure. So like feeling shame, fear, feeling like you should know how to manage your finances, but really it's just a skill that you need to learn, just like everything else. So maybe you're thinking that the strategies I'm teaching you today only work if you're making $20,000 plus, or maybe you feel like you need to hire a CFO or a profit coach or a money coach. But I'm going to teach you very simple things that you can implement right away. Now, let's imagine something different for you. So if you feel like looking at your bank account is like makes you panic, anxious, I want you to think of you waking up, checking your bank account, and just feeling calm, like you're in full control. You know what to pay yourself every single month. You know exactly what your bills are going to be. You know exactly what your break-even point is. Well, as a new normal inside her profit era. So I'm going to cover the Clarity Control Cashflow framework today. I'm going to teach you how to find the leaks in your business, also understanding why your prices might be too low and how to price for real profit. Also a simple system to manage your money so that you can keep more of what you earn without working so hard. So a little bit about myself. My name is Cindy Kumar. I'm based in Vancouver, BC, Canada. I've been in the finance industry for 12 years now. And even for myself, like I struggled with money. Growing up with my dad being an entrepreneur in the real estate industry, like we would have money coming in all at once, or periods where there was like nothing. During the 2008 recession, like we completely lost everything. And that really changed my perspective on money. So when I started my corporate career as an accountant in 2013, like I carried those beliefs with me. So I thought I'm making money now, I can just spend it. So I'd go out for like the happy hour, brunches, designer bags, like you name it. I put everything on my credit card, then every 2 weeks I would pay it off. I lived in that cycle over and over. It didn't matter like how hard I tried to save, it just never happened. And like I had the CPA designation, financial education, but I still didn't have a handle on my money. And it wasn't until the last 9 months where I really started unpacking my relationship with money, I realized I was still being that girl from 2008. So even when I started my business, like I'd have clients paying me and I would feel the need to spend that money. Like I just didn't want money sitting in my bank account. And I just struggled saving. So once I got like that awareness piece and started doing the inner work, it really transformed my relationship with money. And I know a lot of us like we hold so much shame, so much discomfort when it comes to like talking about money. Less than 20% of women know their numbers. So it's all about just educating women for me. I have a podcast called Her Profit Era. I'm at like over 100 episodes. So if you want to go deeper into any of these topics I'm teaching you today, the podcast would be a great way to learn more. And my goal is to really just educate and create more awareness on how easy it can be with dealing with your finances. So how do you keep more money in your bank account? Well, there's only three ways. You're either going to sell more, increase your prices, or cut back on your spending. Now, most people just focus on selling more, but then they're also hustling more, they're stressing themselves out, and they're operating for more like a scarcity mindset versus an abundance and alignment with their clients. Like you started your business to support your clients, provide a service that you're super passionate about. And if you're just launching every single month and scrambling to make ends meet, like you lose your purpose and your why for why you started your business. Increasing your prices is also a great way you can generate more cash without having to sell more. And then I'll be also going over like auditing your expenses, what that kind of looks like, so you can remove what you don't need. I'll also be sharing the Clarity Control Cashflow framework. I've used this framework with like over 200 clients. They've increased their return on investment, and I'll show you some examples as well. So here's a client example. I started working with this client back in May. She's a spa owner. She has 2 locations, but her wages were really eating up her profit. So you can see May and June, in both locations, like she was paying 76% of what she was making to her team. And she didn't have enough to pay her overhead, pay herself, build her emergency savings, and start repaying her debt. So I did a full wage analysis for her. We looked at return on investment on all her employees. And then I told her, like, gave her my recommendations on what she needed to do. She made the changes, and you can see in July, she reduced it to 54% in her first location, and the second location, she pretty much cut it by half. So in total, in 3 months, she reduced her payroll cost by 52%, which was $24,000. And you can see like she didn't need to sell more. The profit was already in her business. It's just finding ways on what you need to cut back on and how it impacts like your bottom line. So she cut her team costs by 52% and 2.7x her return on investment in 90 days of working together. Here's another example. So this client, she was a makeup artist in the wedding industry. So her summer months are super busy. And then the rest of the year, it kind of slows down for her. But during that time, she's living off of her credit cards, her business loans, her personal line of credit, and she would be spending just as much. So with her, she didn't really have a system for savings, building up her emergency savings, and she really had nothing planned. She was just surviving month to month. And she's been in the industry for like 5 years. So the next step was control. So I had to ask her, how can we generate more consistent income and plan for those slow months? We also reviewed her contracts with her team. So did her pay structure make sense, especially during the off season because she was still paying them? And we reviewed her overall expenses. So other than her team costs, like where was her money going? Was she at Sephora buying makeup products, just mindlessly spending on things that she didn't really need? So the last step of the framework is cash flow. So we found new ways to generate income during the off season. She started doing master classes, destination weddings. We also put a profit structure in her business so she was actually paying herself. So we worked together for a year. This is what her numbers looked like before. This is how we turned it around. She ended up with $190,000 in profit, and then 50% went to paying herself. She saved about 30% for taxes, and then she set up her emergency savings. So typically emergency savings should be like 3 to 6 months of expenses, but it can vary like person to person, depending on what like your peak seasons are. Here's another example. This one, all we did was change her pricing. So she was a coach. She was packaging her services at $850 per month. She was making about like $8,000 on average, but she came to me and she said she really wanted to hit 20K months. She was able to pay herself and she had minimal expenses because she just worked from home on her computer. So the next step of the framework was control. So how many clients would she need to take on at her existing prices to hit the 20K months? Well, she would need 24 clients. So when I told her this, she was like, there's no way I can manage 24 clients without having the need to like hire. And she wanted to keep her business small. She didn't want to hire like a big agency or a team. And then I had to ask her, is there room to change up your prices and offers? So she hadn't increased her prices since she started her business. So then we decided to change up our pricing structure. Now, all we did was we set up different tiers. She started at 1,500, then 2,000, then 2,500. And then she was able to keep her existing clients, changed up her offers, told them what they would be getting in the different options. As a result, like this is how her clients changed, and she hit $20,000. She didn't need to sign up new clients, or try to find new people. She really just needed someone to come in and do like a high level look at what's going on in her business and help her get to her goals. So she made $60,000 more in sales and 7x her return on investment. So it's not about selling more, it's about looking at what your goal is and how we can get you there without you just selling more. Looking at, can we change up your offers? Is there leaks in the business when it comes to your expenses? Like, how can we get you there so you don't have to work so hard? Here's another example of a marketing agency owner. She had consistent money coming in, but she was spending everything she made. So you can see she had very little profit. She wasn't paying herself, and she had a hard time every month paying the bills. And you can see for every $100 she got, $90 went to paying her team, which was huge. So for control, it was obvious that it was her team structure and she was paying way too much for her team. We reviewed their hours, their return on investment. We looked at her break-even point and her ideal margins that she wanted. And as a result, we cut her underperforming contractors. We reallocated her contractor hours to high impact roles. And we set clear caps on team spending so she didn't overspend. So she went from paying her team 90% to 42%. You can see her profit increased significantly. She went from $15,000 to $155,000 by just restructuring her costs. Now her revenue stayed like consistent. So this first step of the framework is clarity. So asking yourself, what needs to change so you can fix your relationship with money, and then also understanding like how much money is coming in every single month, how much is going out, what's left over, what do you want to pay yourself, how much does it actually cost to run your business each month. Now it can fluctuate month over month depending on when like your peak seasons are, but you should have a good understanding of what's kind of going on every month. So if your summers are slow, how are you planning for those things? If you're taking some time off from your business, like are you thinking 3 to 6 months ahead of time so that when that month happens, you still have money coming in? Because at the end of the day, regardless of how much you're working or how much money comes in, you're still gonna have those monthly expenses that need to be paid for. So really just knowing your numbers. So you need to know like how much is coming in, how much is going out, and what's really left over. So here are 3 examples. So this business is profitable because it's spending less than it's making. This one's breaking even. So breaking even is just making enough to cover your costs. And in the red means you're making less revenue than you're spending, and you end up being in the red because you're overspending. So one thing that's really helped me get clarity on what's going on in my business is I schedule weekly money dates. So I go to like a cafe, my favorite lunch spot, order some food, bring my laptop with me, and then I open my bank account and credit card account. And And I'm just looking at how much money came in for the week, how much went out, how much is going to come in for the next week and the rest of the month. And then same with my expenses. And then at the same time, like I'm paying my credit card off, looking at what's coming in, what's going out. The more you start doing this, the easier it becomes, and you make it something fun and you enjoy. So like I look forward to this because like I love taking myself out. So like I'll go to like a coffee shop, check out different places. Like it's just a good way to look at your money and just have fun with it. And it keeps you accountable too, because if you feel like there's not enough coming in like next week or by the end of the month, then it gives you clarity on like what do you need to focus on to get more money coming in. Maybe you need to follow up with clients. Maybe like for myself, I do a lot of corporate year end. So can I reach out to clients to do their tax planning and kind of planning ahead before December? And that way I can get them to sign their engagement letters, pay their deposits, like really just planning ahead and understanding what's going on for the month. So another thing I want to go over is understanding your break-even point, because I'm finding a lot of people aren't even looking at this number. So break even just really means like how much money needs to come in to cover your monthly expenses. So let's say, for example, your monthly expenses are like $5,000, and let's say you charge $1,000 per client. Well, you're going to take your monthly expenses divided by how much you charge per client, and that's how many clients you need every single month. So if you're hitting like between 1 to 4 clients, like you're not even covering your costs. Client number 6 is where you actually start to make money. 5 and below, like you're just covering your costs or not even covering your costs. Here's another example. So let's say your expenses are $2,000 and you have like a low ticket price. Well, if you take your $2,000 expenses divided by the 100, you would need 20 clients to break even. So the first 20 facials you do just covers your costs. Client number 21, that's when you finally start to make profit. So this is why understanding this number is so key, because then you can see, am I overspending or am I not charging enough? Or do I just not have enough clients coming in every single month? Or you might just have some months where you are breaking even, some months you might be profitable, and then other months you're not breaking even. Just seeing what the patterns are and how you can fix that going forward. Now, step 2 is control. So asking yourself what needs to change so you can have more money in the bank. So expenses, subscriptions, what isn't helping you grow? Annie and me were just talking about this like before we started, understanding what subscriptions you're paying for. A lot of my clients, like they pay for Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, all these kind of subscriptions that they're not really tracking. And are they realistically watching those streaming platforms on a daily basis? They're not. So it's like, why are they paying for those kind of things? So now they're subscribing for the streaming platform they want to watch on. Once they're done with that, they unsubscribe and then they pay for the next one. So that way you're not paying for all these kind of things that aren't really supporting you. Team cost is another thing. So understanding what you're paying them, how many hours you're spending, is it aligned with your current revenue? Because a lot of times people overspend on the team costs. I've seen between like 60 to 90% of what people are making go directly to their team. And then there's nothing left for like overhead, taxes, or even paying themselves. And that's where a lot of business owners get stuck. Also asking yourself, do you need to increase your prices, update your packages, or shift your offers? Also, are you setting boundaries with your clients, or are you over delivering and undercharging? That's really common too, especially when people start up their businesses. They get into the habit of doing all these things for the clients, but they're not really charging for them. So really making sure you're actually charging for what you're actually doing. And then asking yourself, where are you leaking money in the business? Now, how do you price for profit? Now, a lot of us, we just look at industry averages, what our competitors are doing, and that's what we end up pricing our services as. But I really want you to rework and re-engineer your prices. So ask yourself, what is the real cost of your service? So think of supplies, rent, your time. If you have employees or contractors, how long does it take them? Ask yourself, what do you want to pay yourself per hour? And then how much you want left for profit for your business. Now, let's say you do lashes, it takes you 2 hours. The cost of your supplies and rent is like $40. You want to make $50 an hour. So if it's going to take 2 hours, you want to make $100 and your profit goal is 50. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your costs, you're going to add up how much you want to make and your profit goal. Well, based on that, you should be charging your clients $190 per service. And if your price doesn't include your pay and profit, you're really not running a business. You're just running like a charity and you're just surviving. And the whole point of running your business is to make money and to be profitable. So this is going to vary person to person, business to business, because your costs, what you want to make, and what your profit goals are going to be so different from a competitor, other people in different industries, because your life is completely different. What's important to you isn't going to be important to someone else. Here's a high ticket example as well. So let's say this program is $10,000. You have a team hired. It's going to cost you $3,000 a month. You want to pay yourself $10,000 and you want a profit goal of $5,000. Well, based on that, you're gonna take your team costs, your desired pay, and your profit goal, that's $18,000. So you need 2 clients per month to hit that $20,000 revenue goal. And that way you're making sure you get paid every single month. You have enough built up in your business bank account, and you have $2,000 of like buffer room too. So making sure that your prices include all of these things will make sure that you're actually getting paid. It covers your costs. And especially like if you have a team, making sure that's all covered. What has really helped me with the control phase is I do 30-day expense reviews. And then I look at what I need to keep, what I need to kill, and what I need to tweak. By doing this, like I downgraded my tax software subscriptions, saved myself $2,000 for the year. I was also working with a marketing agency. Once I ran the numbers, I realized 76% of my clients were coming organically from the content and marketing I was doing myself. So I decided to kill working with this agency. I was paying them $1,500 a month plus ad spend. So by doing this, I saved myself $18,000 for the year. So as a result of doing it, like the first time I did it, I saved myself $2,000 from the tax software subscription plus $18,000 from this agency. So by doing this, I found $20,000 in my business without even having to sell more. And I do this on a monthly basis just to keep track of what I'm paying for, because a lot of times you pay for things and it's working, but then it becomes unaligned or things don't go as planned. So really just making sure you're on top of your subscriptions, making sure it makes sense for you, because a lot of times we subscribe to like the highest features and then we realize we're not even using them. So looking at what the other options are. Another good time is when your subscriptions are up for renewals. That's a great time to relook at things, book calls with like the manager that you're dealing with at that company, and just seeing what your other options are. Now, step 3 was cash flow. So once you find the leaks in your business, you're going to have more cash. So it's really about asking yourself, what do you want to do with that money? Because a lot of times, if money is just sitting in like our main operating checking account, we're not really doing anything with it and we end up just spending through it. So asking yourself, like, do I want to save for my next vacation? Do I want to invest in it like a mastermind? Like what's really important for you, and making sure you're able to put money away in those separate like buckets, building up your emergency savings. So having that 3 to 6 months is going to be super key for you. And then just understanding like where do you want to invest your money? A lot of times people will invest in like coaching, masterminds, but they're not really looking at the return on investment or why they want to invest. It's more of like someone's having a sale, I need to invest in that right away. But they're going to have that same sale and that coach is always going to be there. So why not understand what they're charging? Let's say it's like $12,000. Well, if you want to join that program in like a year, start putting away $1,000 in a separate savings account. That way you don't have to dip into your credit card or like your business loans to pay for that mastermind. This is something I do with traveling. So like I just went to New York to speak. I'm going to Vegas next week to work with the Hormozy team. I already planned for these things ahead of time. So I know what it's gonna cost me. I use my points. I'm just planning ahead so that way you don't come back to like a huge credit card bill that you didn't plan for. So really cash flow is really about being strategic with the money in your bank account. And if you struggle to pay yourself, here's 3 steps you can implement. So with Clarity, understand how much it costs to run your life. So instead of doing like a budget, I call it like a spending plan and just breaking down like what your personal costs are. So like if you have rent or mortgage, your utilities, like your cell phone bill, all these kind of things, understand what it's going to cost you month to month. And some months they might be higher if you have like property taxes, things that you pay for like once a year. But once you understand that, then you understand like how much your business needs to pay you. And then control is really about, is there enough money in the business to actually pay yourself that amount? If not, you might need to rework your pricing so that you're actually priced for profit. You've built how much you need to pay yourself into your pricing directly. And then with cash flow, putting in a system to transfer yourself that amount every single month. So rather than waiting for like you paying all your bills and then paying yourself out, put in a plan where like you auto transfer yourself that money, regardless of what's going on in your business. Another easy way you can start saving money is there's an hack called the last digit savings hack. So how it works is like every day you open your bank account, you look at the last digit in cents. So in this example, last digit is 3. So depending on what's important to you and what bucket you use, you're gonna transfer that money into a separate savings account. The largest amount you're gonna put away is like $9, and the lowest is gonna be $1. And the reason this works so well is because the amounts are so small, you're not going to hesitate or feel like you have to give up things in order to save that money. Versus if you're trying to put away $1,000 every single month in a huge chunk, you're going to have so much resistance to that because it's going to feel like, oh, that's like a lot of money. Like I have to give up like my lattes, my Starbucks run, all those kind of things. But if you do small increments every single day, you're not even going to notice. So I did this for like a year and I saved like $1,400 without changing anything in my life. So I'd highly encourage you to find something that works for you, because putting those large amounts away might feel so hard for you. And that might be the reason why you have so much resistance with saving. But once you get clear on what you want to save for and how much, it's so much easier because you have a direction for that money. Because at the end of the day, money is just energy, it's just a tool and resource that we use. So once you give it a direction, you'll be more connected to that and wanting to save. So this is a quick recap of what we've covered today. So with Clarity, scheduling weekly money dates, getting clear on how much is coming in, how much is going out, what's left over. Step 2 is understand your break-even point every single month. Step 3 would be understanding if you're priced for profit. So really make sure you're building your profit percentage and how much you want to pay yourself into your pricing directly. And step 4 is pay yourself every single month, regardless of what's going on in your business bank account. I work with a lot of women that struggle to pay themselves. So we've started off small, just transferring themselves like $100 every 2 weeks, and then they can build on that habit. So everything I taught you today shows you that you don't need a $1 million launch. You don't need to focus on sales alone. You just need strategy and a plan. Your business isn't too small for financial strategy. Based on what I taught you today, like anybody can implement those strategies. It's just about understanding and planning ahead and really sitting with your money, because that's like the most uncomfortable part. So as a thank you for being here, I want to offer you a free profit strategy call. So you can scan the QR code. We'll take a look at your numbers, find the leaks, and build out a plan for you. That way you don't feel like you're scrambling, you're trying to make all these changes all at once. We can break it down step by step so it's not so overwhelming for you. And if there's any questions, you can share them in the chat now.
A question, Cindy, as folks are thinking, I think one thing that you've given a ton of good tips, and I know a lot of people that I've worked with, they don't even know where to start. They're so
Yeah.
overwhelmed. And I think you gave some good tips of like, even with the transferring money over, start with $100 a week instead of a huge amount. Any other tips for people who are kind of starting from a blank page? They have no idea. They're like, this was great information. What are the bite-sized things I could do tomorrow? What would you share?
That's a great question. I would say the first thing is like scheduling your weekly like money dates. Maybe if weekly feels too much, you can do them like bi-weekly or at least once a month. And then just looking at what happened in like the last month. So pulling out like your bank statements, your bank transactions, seeing how much money came in from what clients, what offers. And then also pulling out your credit card statements and looking at what type of expenses you're paying for. And then if you break out your expenses line by line, it becomes so much easier. And then you
Yeah.
see like when your subscriptions are going out, like the example right here. Like if you break it down line by line.
This is so helpful. I love seeing this. The other thing I noticed that you do, a lot of these are annual payments. I have
Yeah.
found also if you want to find secret savings, look at your monthly subscriptions and see if you can save by getting an annual subscription. If you know you're going to use it the whole year long, that's been a huge one for me. I saved hundreds of thousands of dollars doing that.
Yeah, that's an easy way as well. A lot of times if people aren't planning for those things, then they end up like putting on their credit card and then they're paying like credit card fees as well. So just being strategic, like if you know it's coming up in August, then breaking that out in 12 months and putting that money away ahead of time
Yeah.
and just planning for it.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
Otherwise, you lose out on those savings too if you're just paying credit card interest.
Yeah, exactly. Any other questions from folks for Cindy before we wrap up?
Don't see
Feel
anything in the chat yet.
Yeah, feel free to drop them in the chat. If not, we can wrap it up there.
Okay.
Cindy, yeah, I want to make sure people know where to contact you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at it's Cindy Kumar. You can also email me at info@elevatedaccounting.ca. I also have my podcast called Her Profit Era, so you can also check out more of the information I shared more in depth on the podcast.
Awesome. All right, well, I'll stop the recording now for anyone rewatching this. Thanks for being here. Definitely reach out to Cindy. And then if you want to check out more upcoming workshops, they're at money-essentials.com/events. There's a whole bunch of other amazing workshops coming up, so definitely check that out. But thanks again, Cindy, for being here. I'll end the recording now.
Thanks, Annie.